Hello, my sisters. It's time for Hearthstone to go beyond the Warcraft universe with the next mini set, Heroes of Starcraft, another Blizzard property that has laid dormant for actually around 10 years that finally is going to get some love in Hearthstone. Probably not what the fans would have wanted, but it is what it is. Which means this mini set is going to be bigger than normal. It is 49 cards. 48 of them are divided between Zerg, Protoss, and Terran, three key factions in StarCraft. And we will be going over the cards in reverse order of reveal. So we're going to be starting with the one Warcraft card within the set. All right, now for Grunty, the one Warcraft card in the mini set, which is a 8 cost, 3 attack, 4 HP Murloc. Battlecry, summon 4 random Murlocs, then shoot them at enemy minions. You pick the targets. This card would have been fine if it could hit face. I know there might be some weird wacky combo in Wild where there might be a big enough Murloc where this couldn't hit face, but honestly speaking, this card is probably completely unplayable just because of the fact that it doesn't hit face. You could also change the wording to be for different enemies and then basically allow it to hit face, so you can just hit your opponent's face with 4 Murlocs and it would probably still be fine. But at 8 mana, this is just too slow of a card, which sucks because I've been wanting to do a Murloc deck for a while now. Let's start with the Zerg cards. The first one is going to be Kerrigan, Queen of Blades, a 7 cost hero card with 5 armor. Battlecry, summon 2/5 Brood Queens, deal 3 damage to all enemies. And then you're also going to have Ravage as her ability, which will get upgraded for each Zerg that you have on board, where it splits damage among all enemies. It is worth mentioning the Brood Queens are going to be these 3 cost minions that have 2 attack, 5 HP. At the end of your turn, you get a larva that transforms into random Zerg minions, and this is the larva, and we'll be going all over all the Zerg minions a little bit later in the neutral-ish pool. Zergling is the most iconic Zerg, a 1 cost, 1 attack, 1 HP minion. Battlecry, summon a copy of this. And then finally, we have Nibius Worm, a 3 cost. Draw 2 Zerg cards, they cost 1 less. And then finally, we have Spawning Pool that gives us additional Zerglings in our hand every time we use it, and then give our Zergs rush whenever we use all of the durability. Overall, for the neutral package of Zergs for the 4 classes that can use them, I think this will probably be a decent package just for aggro. That's what the main strategy of Zerg is going to be. However, there are going to be some weird, wacky combos you can do in DK, which will be seen here in a second. And honestly, I think you might be able to do something fun with Zergling and Shafar in Hunter, which could be an interesting deck there. The first one is going to be Viper, a 4 cost, 5 attack, 3 HP minion. Battlecry, summon a minion from your opponent's hand. Your other Zerg minions gain reborn and attack it. This is perfect to disrupt your opponent from slamming down any late game minion early on if they don't have any type of resurrection effects, which could be interesting. There might be some weird, wacky hand control, deck control, DK variant that would maybe form around cards like this and 8 hands. It is something that I'm probably going to be trying out. I don't know how strong it's going to be overall. Then we also have Infestor, a 3 cost, 3 attack, 2 HP minion with Death Rattle. Your Zerg minions have +1/+1 for the rest of the game. Great for a pure Zerg aggro DK list. There's so many ways to duplicate this currently in Standard, such as Yelling Yodeler, Death Growl, so on and so forth, which will probably make this card see a lot of play, at least until rotation happens. Then we have Baneling Barrage, a 1 cost spell. Gives you a 1/1 Baneling that explodes. If you control a Zerg minion, get another Baneling. The Banelings are going to deal damage equal to this minion's attack to all enemy minions, which is going to be perfect in combination with Infestor earlier on. There might be a control list, which would be a little bit interesting to see compared to the more aggro-based Zerg, such as the Demon Hunter ones. The first one is going to be a Lurker, a 4 cost to attack 6 HP minion. After a friendly minion attack, deal 1 damage to a random enemy. or 2 if your minion is a Zerg. Really interesting. Sadly, amalgams won't count as Zergs, I don't think. So you can't really just slam a bunch of amalgams together to make this really useful. But I think this could see some type of play in just an aggro deck, though might be a little bit better if Blizzard had lowered the cost by 1 and lowered the stat maybe by 1 and 2, just making it a way for you to cheat it out really quickly, given the general theme of Zergs, especially given the Mutalisk, a 4 cost 5 attack 2 HP minion, also damages minions next to whomever this attacks, and the enemy hero if a neighbor is missing. Interesting as a way to get around big taunts. Demon Hunter historically has a few ways to do that. And the one downside is Demon Hunter won't have an easy way to buff this up in your hand, making it where this is probably going to be just a 5-2 most of the time. However, if you randomly generate it off of a Brood Queen, this could be a really good card in a DK or Hunter list as a way to use some pre-existing synergies. We also have Creep Tumor, a 2-cost spell for Demon Hunter. Your Zerg minions have +1 attack and rush. Just really good for the previous 2 cards. I think this one will probably see play. Let's get onto the Hunter cards, starting with the Hydralist, a 3-cost for attack, 2 HP minion. Battle Cry, deal 2 damage to a random enemy. Repeat for each other Zerg you control. This is an interesting card in theory. It's very similar to, there was a pirate from United and Stormwind's mini set that did, I think, 1 damage for each beast that you had on board. And that didn't see too much play outside of memes, but this is a lot lower cost if I remember right. So this could be a lot more potential, especially given the fact that you should be able to swarm the board with a lot of Zergs pretty easily. The other card that we're going to see is Roach, a 2-cost to attack 2 HP Zerg minion. Whenever you draw this, get a copy of it. Battlecry if you control another Zerg, gain +1/+2. Basically, usually how Hearthstone works is you'll draw the card, it will make a copy, then it'll buff itself up, making this a little bit worse. However, I do think there is going to be a Hunter Shafar Zerg list, especially given the fact that we do have Evolution Chamber, a 2-cost spell that gives your minions +1 attack. Give your Zergs an additional +1/+1. We also do have the neutral location that gives all your Zergs rush, making this a little bit better in Hunter. Overall, again, I think there will probably be some type of Shafar list with Zergs. And now for the final Zerg class, which is going to be Warlock. The first card is going to be Consume. Remove 1 durability from a friendly location. Restore 8 health to your hero, which sounds a little bit weird, but we also have Ultras Cavern, a 3-cost location for Warlock that has 3 durability that deals 1 damage to enemies, and then summons a 8/8 Ultras with Rush whenever you do trigger it, along with the spawn pool as a way to make use of a card like this. I think the fact that they're actually trying to do something with locations is really, really cool. However, I do not think these cards are going to see any type of play between Consume and Cavern. There's just better cards that you could run instead of Cavern, and for Consume, it is just a conditional way to get rid of 1 durability and restore HP to your hero, which is not good in the year 2025. And given the last card, which is Spine Crawler, a 2-cost 1 attack 6 HP minion, taunt can't attack, has 3 attack if you control a location. This one I also don't see seen too much play. However, this has more potential just because it's an anti-aggro tool with a really big body if you can get any of these other locations out real easily. And now that we're through all the Zergs, let's get onto the Protoss. The first one is going to be Artanis, a 7-cost hero card that Battlecry summon 2, 3, 4 Zealots with charge. Your Protoss minions cost 2 less this game with 5 armor. Then the hero power is going to give a friendly minion and your hero +1 attack and divine shield this turn. There is a really big meme combo that I really want to try out with this card in Priest, using Raza as a way to keep refreshing your hero power over and over again, and using things like Papercraft Angel as a way to discount your hero power down to 0, and then maybe go into your opponent's face with a Wind Fury weapon off of Ignis. I don't think this is going to be any bit stronger than the already existing Raza OTK priest list that you can do in standard, but it could be a lot of fun, and we'll be seeing a reason why you'll want to discount the Protoss minions by 2 for the rest of the game with some of the other cards. And one of those early game payoffs for that is going to be Void Ray, a 3 cost, 3 attack, 1 HP mech, rush, Divine Shield, Battlecry if this costs 0, gain +2/+2. Just a pretty well statted minion. It is going to be a little bit difficult to discount all the way to 0 early on, but you never know. Then we have Chrono Boost, a 4 cost draw 2 Protoss card, summon a 3/4 Zealot with charge. This is just a decent draw power card. You're probably not going to want to run too many Protoss cards in your deck, just as a way to make sure you consistently draw into whatever win condition you're trying to pull off, which we'll be going over a little bit later. We also have Warp Gate, which is a location for all the Protoss classes, which will make your next Protoss minion cost 3 less, which is great for the Void Ray. It's also great for some of the 12 cost minions that we'll be going over a little bit later for some of the individual classes. Then finally, we have Proton Cannon, which deals 3 damage if this kills a minion. Your Protoss minions cost 1 less from this game. Great removal tool for any of the Protoss classes, including Druid. And speaking of Druid, we might as well go over Druid. First one is going to be Immortal, a 7 cost mech that has 5 attack, 8 HP, taunt, divine shield, battlecry. Spend 4 mana to double this minion's stats. Druid, I don't think has too many ways to buff up things in your hand currently, but you never know. We might be seeing some additional support cards for a card like this in the nearby future, and maybe that's why they're printing this. Overall, I think this is a little bit too slow, and there's a lot better options that you could use instead of this. However, it is worth mentioning this is a decent resurrection target for Hydration Station, which could be interesting there. Then we have Carrier as a 12 cost to attack, 14 HP mech. At the end of your turn, summon 4/1 interrupters that attack random enemies, which basically just charge into random things, probably being destroyed themselves or hitting your opponent's face. If this is played on an empty board after slamming down something like a Ceaseless Expanse, you basically have 16 points of damage to your opponent's face, which should be good. And if you can discount this really low, you might be able to slam down 2 of them instead of 1, especially given the fact that we have Construct Pylons, a 0 cost spell that makes your next Protoss card this turn cost 2 less, making it easier to either cheat out a Carrier or a Artanis if you really want to get that online as quickly as possible. Mage, however, has some really cool Protoss cards, starting with Colossus, a 12 cost 9 attack, 4 HP mech. Battlecry, deal 1 damage to all enemies twice, improved by Protoss spells you cast this game. We'll be seeing a card a little bit later that will give you a random Protoss spell, which makes this card a little bit better. This is going to be a card that a lot of people are going to end up complaining about. However, I will say this, if you manage to ramp this up as quickly as humanly possible, then I can't fault you for winning the game through dealing a bunch of damage to me twice. Overall, this is a really slow card, even if I want to meme around with it. I honestly haven't been more excited for a Mage list in quite a while, just because this card looks like a lot of fun, just because I like weird, wacky OTKs. Speaking of our random Protoss spell generator, we have Resonance Coil, a 3 cost spell that deals 5 damage to a minion, get a random Protoss spell. This is just going to be used to buff up Colossus, probably no other reason. Then we also have Shield Battery that gains 6 armor. Your next Protoss spell costs 2 less, making this card a lot more playable. And given the fact we'll be seeing some additional spells here, it should be quite playable since this pool is really small. And it isn't like this pool is going to get any bigger. Now for the final Protoss class, which is going to be Priest. The first one is going to be Mothership, a 12 cost, 10 attack, 10 HP mech. Taunt, Battlecry, Death Rattle, get 2 random Protoss minions. I know we technically haven't went over all the class Protoss minions yet, but Sentry is the other Protoss minion for Priest, which has lifesteal, death rattle. Your Protoss minions cost 1 less this game. It's a 2/2 that costs 2. And then we'll also be going over the Dark Templar and the High Templar for Rogue in a little bit. Overall, I do think this could be an interesting way to play Resurrection Priest, but honestly speaking, I don't know if I would rather run something like this to heavily rely on the fact that we'd also have to rely on more RNG to get a win condition out of something like Colossus, or just try to make Artanis work in Priest with very little Protoss synergy besides him. The final Priest card is going to be Hallucination, a 1-cost summon a copy of a friendly Protoss minion. It takes double damage. Again, like, if Protoss were good in Priest, this would probably see a lot of play. It's a cheap spell, but I think this is just going to be one of those cards that won't see too much play. Now, we'll get onto the rogue cards, since they are the last Protoss class. I misspoke earlier. First one is going to be Dark Templar, a 6-cost, 5-attack, 3 HP minion. Stealth, Battlecry, destroy an enemy minion. Play another Templar to merge into a Archon, and then the Archon deals 8 damage to the enemy hero and 2 damage to their minions. This is very similar to the old Raw-Din combo that you could get, where you needed to summon 7 Mugu Cultists in order to get a big minion out, or Blood of the Ancient One, both of which are way worse than this card. And given the fact we do see some mana cheat in Rogue, such as a blink, draw a Protoss minion combo, it costs 2 less, you should be able to maybe easily get 2 of these out on the same turn, making it very easily. Or you could even just use the High Templar. It doesn't tell you if you need 2 of the same. This one deals 2 damage to all enemies, which isn't bad. It is a little bit high cost for a control rogue list, but I could see some potential there. Now let's go on to the final faction, Terrans, centered around launching starships. Jim Raynor, a 7-cost hero card with 5 durability that has the Battlecry relaunch every starship that you launch this game. And then the hero power is going to be summon a 2/2 Marine with taunt, give your Terran minions +2 attack. We'll be seeing a lot of Terrans that lower the cost of our starship launches, such as SCV, a 1-cost, 1-attack, 3 HP mech that has the Battlecry, lower the next starship launch by 2. Great for any starship list that you might want to try to make work. We also are seeing Ghost, a 4-cost, 6-attack, 2 HP minion with stealth, Battlecry. If you're building a starship, destroy the lowest card in your opponent's hand. Can you say Bayfin, Shaman, or Warrior? Because this seems like a real fun card to play around with, even if it is going to cause a lot of rage. Overall, I can't wait to try to make something with this work, even if I don't try to make the rest of the Terran cards work the way they were supposed to. We also have Liftoff that draws 2 Terran cards that summons a 2/1 starship piece with an effect when launched, a 3-cost spell, and then the individual parts are going to deal 5 damage to a random enemy, deal 2 damage to all enemies, get 3 bonus random effects, gain 7 armor, summon 2/2 Marines with taunt, and honestly, of these random options, you're probably going to want to get these first 2, but this is still going to be quite potent for those early starship lists. We also have this location that does also summon the same starship pieces as a way to get some additional synergy to make it where you can easily launch a bunch of them. It would be interesting to see if maybe Warrior becomes like a aggro starship list, since we haven't actually had one of those exist currently in Standard, even though Demon Hunter was pretty close to doing that. And because I was talking about Warrior, let's start with them. Thor is the first card, 8-cost, 8-attack, 8 HP minion with Battlecry, deal 5 damage, transform if you've launched a starship this game. And then the next one is going to be Battlecry, deal 5 damage, Repeat at a random enemy for each starship you've launched this game. It is worth mentioning that Raynor does not have synergy with this card. However, there could be some funny, goofy little Highlander warrior list you could easily OTK your opponent using this with, and that is probably what I'm going to try to do with warrior. And then we have Yamamoto Cannon, a 4 cost, 3 attack, 3 HP mech starship piece. Battlecry, destroy a random enemy minion. Also triggers on launch. This is going to be a decent card, especially in Rogue where you can randomly generate this. But overall, if you're trying to spam out a bunch of starship launches over and over to make most use of Thor, this might be a little bit harder to use. Then we also have Concussive Shells, a 1 cost spell that deals 2 damage, gain 2 armor. Your next starship launch costs 2 less. Just a great way to spam out a bunch of starships really quickly. I honestly can't wait to try to make something with warrior and starships work. Now for Shaman, the first one is going to be Siege Tank, which is a 5 cost, 5 attack, 5 HP mech. Battlecry, deal 10 damage to a random enemy minion. Transforms if you've launched a starship at this game. And then the launch version is going to be Battlecry, deal 10 damage to a random enemy minion. Excess damage hits the enemy hero. It's worth mentioning this does not work in combination with Shutterblock, making this actually probably not that playable of a card. But we do have some fun little things from Shaman for the starship pieces. The first one is going to be Missile Pod, a 2 cost, 1 attack, 3 HP starship piece. Battlecry, deal 1 damage to all enemies. Also triggers on launch. It's a mech. And then finally, we have Lock On, which sets a minion's health to 1. Your next starship launch costs 2 less. Honestly, I think these 3 classes are probably going to want to launch as many starships as quickly as possible. But at the same time, I think the route I'm going to go down when it comes to Starship Shaman is going to be reuse the idea of Bay Fin to basically mill our opponent's key cards out of their hand. And now for Paladin. First one is going to be Hellion, a 4 cost, 4 attack, 4 HP mech. Your other minions have plus 1 attack. Transforms if you launch a starship. And then this one is your other minions have plus 2 attack and rush. This is interesting for maybe like a dude Paladin list, but I don't know how strong that's going to be. Who knows, we might be seeing a dude starship Paladin list given the next card, which is Ultra Capacitor, a 2 cost, 1 attack, 1 HP mech starship piece. Battlecry, gain +1/+1 for each other friendly minion. Also triggers on launch. And the final card is Salvage the Bunker, a 3 cost spell that summons 2/2/2 Marines with taunt. Your next starship launch costs 2 less, making really good use of this aura effect that we'll be getting off of Hellion and Hellbat. Overall, I don't know if this makes me any more excited for Paladin, but it is what it is. Alright, so that was the entire mini set for Heroes of Starcraft. Let me know down below what you actually think of this and the fact that we had our first crossover set. Overall, the only thing I am kind of sad about is the fact that Draenei's are basically dead and they didn't get the additional support they needed, but that's what I expected once they announced the mini set was going to be StarCraft. And it also looks like Priest is the only class that does not have access to starships, which makes that even more frustrating as a Priest fan. Overall, though, again, let me know down below what your general thoughts are, and if you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, bye-bye.